Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see you here today. We're going to have an amazing discussion with my panelists. We are going to be talking about trust, the trust economy. And since a world of COVID, the world has moved to digital. And trust is the key to unlocking billions. Thank you, Kirsty, for that line. So we're going to uncover why this is the case, how this is going to happen. And to start off by introducing you to our panelists, I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves, the company they represent, and tell me what you guys think that, what makes brands trustworthy. So there's kind of a lot. So say it in a couple minutes. Agatha, I'm going to start with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Agatha Slater, and I work at IBM. I'm a business consultant, doing mostly work related to blockchain, business design, all sorts of, business consultancy. And IBM works mostly with enterprise clients on blockchain solutions. And we try to help them enter the space that many people still associate with cryptocurrencies and startups, but we feel that the capabilities of blockchain have a lot to offer for enterprises. So in terms of trust, I feel that there are a few important factors that need to come together for a brand to be considered as trustworthy. So transparency is the first one and perhaps the most important one. And I guess we'll all agree on that. And then, for me, what's important is consistency. And transparency and consistency obviously work together. And then also, now we're at the time where the relationship with the customer is changing a little bit. So it's becoming less transactional and more based on relationships. So a brand that can offer some unique experiences to a customer, makes them feel important, well taken care of, can also boost, that relationship and trust with the customer. And last but not least, it is the feeling of security, and from the customer perspective, this belief that the data that I'm leaving with that company is being well taken care of. And blockchain can help improve, can meet all those demands, can really contribute to help companies to meet those factors. So these are my 4 ingredients.
Brilliant. We're going to dive into all of those in just a minute. So Steve, please introduce yourself.
How are you doing? I'm Steve Smith. I'm working at TrueWorld, a company that was founded during the COVID period about 2 years ago. We're about 22 strong at the moment, and we come up with sustainable ways to impact businesses, processes, products, events. And what we do is we have a set of tools where we're able to calculate the emissions impact. We can accurately trace the sources. We use this information to display the real metrics of an event, of a business, and then give transparency to the customers. So they're able to accurately see what's happening inside an organization with real data. So, yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And Justin.
Hey, thank you, Becky. My name is Justin Pauly. I'm the president of VX Technologies. What we do is we put verifiable data on chain with a very unique double digital signature audit trail. We do this for education, e-government, agriculture, legal. We're getting into, there's a lot of opportunity here because we're a data designed company. So we don't take the data that you need stored on chain and push it into a format that we've created. We allow your data to design the application. And we do that through our AlphaDApp and MagicDApp platforms. Getting to what we discussed about trust, I think it is critical that our first thing is we always show the cards. This is exactly what we're doing, and we have to simplify it. If our process is clouded in any way, you can just see the trust level diminish. And so when we speak with our clients, we have to be very upfront about the process that we're taking, the safeguards we have in place, why they are important, but also give them the empowerment to understand them. So a lot of it's teaching, but then how they can use these tools on our platforms to get over regulatory hurdles. which builds trust because we know that they're coming ahead of the time, so part of it's research on our end. And then I think the final thing is making sure that we have a commitment from our company that we are in markets, we have these relationships, it's not transactional. We are a US-based company, but the majority of our sales agents are not in the United States. We have to be where the companies are that we're serving. So I think put those all together, and that's how we can build trust.
Outstanding. And Kirsty.
Hello, my name is Kirsty Badani. I'm part of Scale Facilitation. We're a global investment group. We're headquartered at the World Trade Center in New York. And I have the blessing to head the innovation program, the investment program for startups and SMEs. So essentially what I do is I scout all around the world for the most innovative companies and most innovative founders and foster their potential. So in terms of trust, what we're seeing in terms of new companies and new business models coming along is that trust is becoming an essential piece. And when you get blockchain involved, what happens is this is an amazing tool because it allows you to do one of three things. Either you reduce your liability and enable new business models that never existed before, or then you reduce cost, or you generate more revenue by engaging your customers in new ways. So one of the things that has been very useful for us in terms of transparency when you have this open ledger is that you can really go back to your clients and make them part of the revenue piece. So once it's not anymore like you're selling something. They're becoming part of a family. So the most important thing is that this is a tool that you put into your business and create a whole new dimension for you to have a better relationship with your clients and generate more money.
Oh, I just love that way of looking at blockchain tech. It's so exciting, so many opportunities. And we're going to start our discussion here with provenance and trust in supply chain. So the first person I wanted to talk to about this is you, Agatha. I would love for you to dive into the Trace platform, which IBM has been working on in conjunction with Gate2Chain, and tell me how this adds trustworthiness into our ecosystem.
Right, so you might have heard of the Trace platform. There's been some information about what it does. So basically, Trace is a solution that allows any company to create this immutable record of a product's provenance. It can be any asset. It can be minerals, pharmaceuticals, luxury goods, or anything at all. And from the moment a product is created, manufactured, and any information about it appears in any ERP system, there is a digital twin created that reflects any information about that product in the form of an NFT token. And then that NFT token is obviously easily transferable. It's under the ownership of the user. It becomes like a digital certificate of ownership and authenticity. IBM has been collaborating with Gate2Chain on designing and developing the solution, and we believe that solutions such as Trace can really drive trust and transparency. And as we were saying, trust and transparency are this really strong combination that are correlated. And as the world pushes for more sustainability and circular economy, solutions such as Trace will become more sought after. Many companies are more and more willing to disclose information transparently to their customers, and a company that is willing to do that is automatically considered to be more reliable and more trustworthy, which can convert to more sales. And soon also having this information about the provenance of goods or having that digital passports of a product will not just be a nice, funky feature to have, but it will actually become a regulatory necessity. So the European Commission is already drafting a regulation that will enforce more transparency for manufacturers to disclose on the practices, on how goods are manufactured, and be able to do so in a way that is transparent and easily verifiable. So with Trace, a digital product passport issued by Trace makes a company compliant by design. And this is the beauty of this solution, that it solves real-life problems, And it also, is very easy to use, is offered as a service, and it's, it's just something that will become a default for many companies out there.
And I love how it reduces fraud and counterfeit, and
Yes.
don't want any of that. And Steve, let's talk a bit about the climate crisis and how TrueWorld is going to help us address some of the issues surrounding climate crisis. And you are going to be able to deal with data and prove that this data is true. A company saying that they are, doing good things for the environment could just be saying that, but via TrueWorld, you can prove you're actually doing it. So can you please explain
So,
how that works?
I will start off with the first thing with climate neutrality or climate crisis is basically are people actually believing that this exists? That would be the first question to ask. And then you would ask the next question is, where's the evidence for it? And we're moving from a model of we're telling you that it's happening to a model of we're proving to you that it's actually occurring. So we're having tools in place that are able to measure the levels of carbon in the atmosphere, able to measure the amount of pollution in the oceans, plastics. Let's take an example where people are not able to deny it, is the loss of species, loss of biodiversity. A good example is we're losing species every year. We have the ibex from the Pyrenees. We have the rhinos they're going extinct. And these are things that people can see that we're losing these species. But when we take that to something that is not so visible, like the pollution in the atmosphere, we really need the data and the evidence. And we need to pass that on, like you said, pass that on to the customer and show the source and say that this source comes from a sensor. And how are we going to prove that that sensor is measuring accurate information? Well, that's where we have the blockchain. The blockchain can timestamp it, can record it in time. It hasn't been touched in the process from sensor to blockchain. It's raw data. And then TrueWorld uses those kind of vital signs enabled to make proof, to give transparency to information.
Really cool, Steve, thank you. And I know I promised you guys in the beginning, we were talking about how trust is going to unlock billions. So Kirsty, I'm gonna go over to you. I know this is an area that you're very passionate about how to increase profits and to reduce costs for enterprises. So how does increasing transparency in the supply chain help enterprises increase their profits?
This is an area that has gotten so much interest that PwC actually ran a report that they published not long ago, and they sized trust economies and blockchain at 1.7 trillion in global GDP. So it's that big, and it's affecting every single aspect of every single business. So, for example, we as an investment firm, we get about 300 submissions a month. So we are getting from every angle, every new business model coming along. And the interesting thing is that every single business that we look at has a trust angle. So, for example, we were looking at agri-tech or ranch tech, that they were traditionally non-technological, they're getting highly technological. And if you think like businesses like Wagyu beef, right? So now you can trace the DNA of the cow, where it was raised, how much water it drank, how much did it walk, and then trace all that chain until the plate. So for the rancher, there's obviously the lower cost because now they have all the data about how they are raising the cows, how much is it costing, what are the resources, and all that good stuff. But then there is the marketing side of things, because by the end that steak ends on the table and the restaurant can verify this is the carbon footprint, of your steak. And we are moving into that economy. It looks a little bit outrageous to think that that's where we're going. But yes, all these models are coming along, and there's value to be unlocked. So for me, these are all, it's a suite of tools that you can apply to the different aspects of business. And most importantly for me, I don't think that the next billionaire has already invented. That probably there might be a billionaire in this room. We are just giving you like all the tools. There's downstairs. All those guys, they have been working for close to a decade in tools that are ready to be implemented. So for us, we've been building this, like we've been doing the whole hard work. And now, you have business partners within the VSV economy that essentially can come in and give a whole dimension to your business by implementing their solutions. So for me, there's a lot of money to be made. It's just a matter of getting creative and think about trust as a value, as a way of unlocking value at the different stages of the business.
Brilliant. I love thinking of blockchain tech as a tool.
Yeah, it is.
Make money, yes. Okay, so now we are going to move on to identity. And I have my identity blockchain man sitting right here. Justin, so I wanted you to elaborate on anonymous identification. How does your platform help verify records? How does it help us share data? How does it help us do all the amazing things that I know that you're going to talk about? Go for it.
Thank you. That's quite a list, but that I can tackle. So on our platforms, identity is a huge component of what we sell to our customers, and more importantly, what happens to the end user, right? Because at the end of the day, if you sign up, you go to a school, you get a degree, it's on blockchain, you need to understand what that trust is as well, and what your identity means. And now we have some industries, like in real estate, where they actually want the name up there, right? So there are some sort of fringe cases that go against absolute anonymous kind of things. But when it comes to anything where we want to have and protect the resources of what we consider digital sovereignty, right? And that's really what the focus is. So as a digitally sovereign person, I can't look into your wallet, you can't look into mine unless I share it. And it's that simple. So that very anonymous or pseudonymous data that we put up on chain for in health, education and eGov and things like that, it still has an audit trail, and that should be there, but then who the end recipient is obviously private to them and their wallet. And I think the important part is that allows peer-to-peer sharing. So if I no longer want to be anonymous, which is the flip side, you have to be anonymous at some point, and then you have to be not anonymous. So if I'm interviewing and I would love to work for Becky, and I say, here's my diploma and here's my work experience, and with one QR code, she can click, Justin, absolutely, you're verified, all this makes sense, and I know that it's true. But she still has to know I'm Justin, right? She can't just say we're hiring some anonymous person. So it's up to that individual end user to control their identity. So they control the anonymity for themselves. And I think that's the critical part. The data is anonymous, but how you use it in the real world has to be then come not anonymous or named. So I think that's the big differential. And obviously, as you said, the tool sets that have been built over years, and all the protocols that we use layered on top of each other, because it's not one. At VXT, there's not just one protocol that we use. There are many that we layer together to have the strongest bond for anonymity on chain.
Oh, really? Kirsty, please.
Yeah, actually, it's funny, like that, I created a model based on anonymous exchange of data. So we all have heard of the horrendous Tinder swindler and all the lack of safety in the dating world, right? And it's always been a crazy thing because all you do is you meet somebody online, they give you a name, an Instagram code, and then you are supposed to do a background check on these people. But you're doing a background check based on information that they gave you. You don't have no way of verifying. So what these tools allow you to do is now everybody owns their own data and third-party verified data. So my background check is mine, your background check is yours, and let's say we're going on a date, and now we can choose to exchange our profiles based on our connectivity in the dating app, but you don't know that I'm Kirsty.
Right.
I don't know you're you. So at the end of the day, we can do that background check exchange very efficiently without really revealing a lot about us.
Right.
And you can feel comfortable.
Valid, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, here's my resume.
Yeah.
This is a valid resume, right?
Yeah.
And so if I had changed my name and I'm not Justin, I'm someone else, if we exchanged, then that information would come up as invalid and go, Justin's not who he says he is. I don't know who this person is. And so I think having those things in place, especially in the peer-to-peer section of taking something that is anonymous, obviously that digital sovereignty, the data that you own, and then flipping it and actually utilizing it in the real world is so critical.
Really cool. And Agatha, I was hoping that you could add to this. We've discussed this subject many times.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
So as you know, I have views on digital identity as actually becoming one of the pillars of this new digital economy, new digital decentralized economy. And this is becoming more and more important as we start thinking about not just blockchain, but a whole technology stack around it, innovative technology stack. Think of, let's say, the IoT infrastructure that is developing and the amounts of data that is being generated through IoT devices. Steve will have a lot to say about that. And think about solutions such as AI that are emerging and that each and single one of us is already interacting with, like ChatGPT. If you start connecting all these different technologies together, then this problem of how do I protect myself in this growing technical infrastructure becomes super important. So for me, digital identity is an absolute fundamental that we need to take care of in order to not end up in this scenario where big players will be controlling, our data in the background invisibly, and it's already happening. And it's actually pretty scary, because if you think about the data that is being pushed via ChatGPT, it gives the companies that own it power. And it's not just the information about what is happening about the world today, but it's predictive data as well. They will have information about what can happen in the future. And that's very scary. So tools, as you say, such as digital identity can really help us protect us. And we're not talking only about identity of humans, but machines as well, And that identity also becomes an enabler of a new transaction system between these different infrastructures. So think about machine-to-machine payment capabilities, or you as an individual being represented by a virtual assistant who's able to transact on your behalf or search for value on your behalf. You need to have that identity as something that protects you. And for me, what's important as well is we talk about these solutions like they are there, but the next big question is how do we bring this to life, right? Because it's a very different story talking about this in panel discussions, let's have this amazing future. But I work in this situation where actually on a daily basis talk to enterprises, governments of how to bring this to life. And this is very difficult, and especially for digital identity. Who is the first party to bring this to the market? Should it be business? Should it be governments? Are we building this awareness bottom up? Or does it have to come top down? These are all the questions that need to be addressed. And there are solutions emerging already. So the EU is working on the EPSI infrastructure. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. It's a pan-European network of nodes hosted by each member states with the goal of building, solutions on top of it that will aid member states and individual citizens of the European Union. And digital identity is one of the fundamentals that will drive this exchange of value. So in this digital identity ecosystem, we need what we call a minimal viable ecosystem. So we need parties to come together and agree, okay, let's exchange that information about a citizen in some use case. So it can be university certificate credentials. That's one of the use cases that the EU is trialing out now. So you have got a university degree that you've obtained from University X, and now you want to disclose it in a different setup and unlock some sort of service. And of course, this becomes like a cross-border implementation. So you need someone who is the holder of that credential, that is you, the owner, and that information becomes under your ownership and your control at all times. And then you have someone who has issued that credential. They have to be on board, they have to be a part of that minimal ecosystem. And then you need a party that will be able to verify that solution for you. So a municipality or some other institution. So we need to onboard many different institutions and organizations to actually put that to life. It's not an easy matter. So for me, you need to have that top-down layer as well, some institution, a government that will try to push these solutions down. Of course, you need to be able to raise awareness and educate the people as well as to the privacy, ownership of data, and that awareness I feel is building, especially for younger generations. So there's a lot of research that shows that millennials and Gen Z are becoming more and more aware of what's happening with their data and much more expectant of some, trustworthy practices and handling of their data, but they're also willing to give away more data, There's an interesting McKinsey report that shows that. Sorry.
No. All absolutely amazing points. And Steve, I would love for you to elaborate on governments. I know TrueWorld is working with governments, and Agatha mentioned also you work with IoT devices clearly.
Yes.
Talk to us about identity and how that ties into both of those areas.
Just to go back, what everyone's agreeing with is that who issues IDs, who gives you the identification is the government. So it's where people, customers, what they really rely on out of any institution, any organization or company is governments. At the highest level, is the government information has to be accurate. Those records need to be accurate. And from that, you can use third-party verification that says that, yes, you are using an application or a platform, and that information on that platform corresponds with our records. So that's the initial start of all of this. And just going back to what you were saying beforehand, we're moving from a very centralized way of storing information, where the Silicon Valleys amass large amounts of information. And we're moving to a model where, like you said, people are starting to take back their information. But where are you storing that information? Are you storing it in a fake identity, or are you storing it inside a wallet that's linked to a real ID with real government proof and credentials? And I think that that's also going back to the whole transparency and how we're linking that through. And I have a vision that one day people will be able to go to YouTube or go on social media and not have to pay advertising, that will come out through microtransactions from their wallet and linked to an actual ID. And whether they want to share that information is up to them. They could on-sell that information rather than just be a given that it gets used by these big centralized corporations.
Did you want to say something, Kirsty?
Well, there is a very interesting case in healthcare, because with COVID, everything got digital. So one of the biggest challenges was compliance for a long time with HIPAA. So you want to provide services to all these patients, but you needed to make sure that the patient that you are connecting with is actually the person. So it's been a little bit of a gray area for the last few years, but it's getting to the point right now where there's the layer of services where you can identify the person using biometrics. So you use the biometrics to connect to the government databases around the world and verify that that's the person. And once you identify that person, you give them a digital identity that is not necessarily Kirsty Banani, but they know I'm myself. And at that point, you can provide services, healthcare services, and you are not liable for sharing that information with the wrong person. So that security layer, it's not only becoming a good service to have, it's for the corporations, it's just a liability issue that they cannot keep ignoring. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. And now we're going to start talking about the new economy that we are moving towards with all of this great tech and trust. Justin, I'm going to start with you on this one. I wanted to talk about peer-to-peer movement, transactions, data sovereignty. This is your big tagline. I know that.
Yeah. I was like, 12 minutes won't be enough, but I'll try to keep it brief. Look, we all live in this world that we're about to enter, and it's not going to change. And I think if I could back up for 1 second before I get into the digital sovereignty part, verified data is essentially the counterbalance to AI nonsense. AI is beautiful. It's going to run so many things. However, bad data in is bad data made by, equals bad decisions. So if we have verified data in from governments, there are so many government leaders that make critical decisions for their populations based on terrible data. I mean, it's horrendous, I'm sure, as you've seen. So if we can get verified data where there's an audit trail where we can actually get to the, this is real, we know this is real, this is not generated by AI, this is not misinterpreted, this is the real data, it's verifiable, we have a chain, and we can prove it. So I think at the core of what VX technology does is that we make sure that we have verifiable data, whether that's in eGov or agriculture, law, and education. But having that real data is essentially that counterbalance, right? So as the pendulum swings with AI, the verifiable data also needs to swing in proportion to keep things on an even keel, where AI doesn't take over the world, but then also we're not, we're not over storing information that's not real. And so that is a critical component to, I think, the future we're all entering. Now we'll get down to the actual people who have to live in this future, and that is the digital sovereignty aspect. So we feel that if you've learned it, you can't unlearn it. You should have a record of that for your whole life. if it happened to you, and I won't get into our medical sort of stuff this time, which is really exciting, but you know, if it goes in your body or if you had a procedure done that happened to you, no one can take that away from you. Even things like continuing education, your job experiences and things that you want to have in your wallet, those should not have a bureaucratic barrier or 7 for you to have access to the things that you have achieved and produced in your lifetime. And so it's a really important step that essentially you get to tell your own story and you get to prove that story to whoever you need to tell it to, whether that is an employer, someone on a date, a panel, all these things. You know, if you're inventing technology, I came up with a new song, whatever it may be, being able to prove these things as a sovereign human with access to verifiable data is so critical to us moving forward. And again, I think it is that sort of the opposite pendulum swing for AI.
Amazing, amazing. And Kirsty, how do micropayments and smart contracts, how do they fuel a new economy and future-proof for business?
Wow, we're seeing it permeate everything. So on the marketing side, definitely engaging your customers, really getting them involved in the economy of your business, rewarding them for interacting with your app. Or you can go into new financing tools. So you have traditional murky industries that are very difficult to do trade financing for because you don't know where the sack of coffee is or if that sack of coffee is actually sitting in that warehouse. So one of the things that is happening is that it's thanks to IPv6 and all the sentinels are going to be spread around the world. Now you're going to have all these massive amounts of data that verify that those assets are where they say they are and their provenance is correct. So now we have new financing entities that are willing to provide liquidity to businesses that were running on very limited cash resources, or was very traditionally expensive to finance. So in an economy like the ones that we're facing, that we're saying, okay, liquidity is going to get constricted, these are going to be essential tools for business to get liquidity immediately. So I am involved in companies that we are looking into investing. And all they're doing is this. They're enabling these digital rails for new financing tools and transactions all over the world. So it lifts a lot of the barriers that are traditional to the way we conducted business for the last decades. So everything is going to change, I would say, in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to be, I would say, actually PwC agrees, is that almost every single business in the world is going to be touched by blockchain by 2025. So it's just a fact. They expect that to be just across the board.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Agatha, can you talk to us about how blockchain tech is going to decrease costs, increase efficiencies? I know you have lots of thoughts on it.
I do, but I would like to flip the coin because, again, you know, I work mostly with enterprises, and when you go to enterprises with the value proposition of, you know, you can optimize with blockchain, you get the reaction like, meh, you know, I can optimize in many different ways, and this story is kind of old, you know, at this point. What enterprises get excited about is how can I build new business models and revenue streams while also optimizing and having my data traceable, you know, adding that trust element. And this is a very, very interesting discussion because it's not easy and intuitive for enterprises to build a decentralized ecosystem. You know, we try that with many different models like consortia. And that's not really worked out, right? We've seen that maybe it's not the optimal way to get enterprises together to collaborate in a decentralized space. So now enterprises are saying, okay, so how else can I build new business models on top of that? And one interesting angle that we're exploring and we're talking to businesses about is data monetization. So as you said, Kirsty, it's like tons of data being generated, and this data is, with blockchain, being authenticated, you know, it has quality. So of course, the first direction you're going to go, how can I make money on that data? But whereas data monetization is not a new concept, we're now looking at, okay, how can we monetize data? How can we monetize user data while having the user also participate in that data monetization to give them that empowerment and that trust, you know? How can we tap into the data of other third parties, and how can we share that revenue in a decentralized enterprise ecosystem? So how can we make that cake bigger together and make the piece of that cake bigger for everyone, rather than just each of us making that small cake, for ourselves, with, very tasty analogy. So that becomes even more interesting when we start looking at AI as a layer that connects these different pools of data. So it is unrealistic to believe that, an automotive X is going to now start collaborating with their competitors, and create that sharing data ecosystem and monetize on that. So I see AI as this layer that can help enterprises build new value on top of their own, ecosystem data, and have these, let's say, AI agents network as to run a collaboration and transaction layer on top. So now we're trying to see how we can connect different pools of data that are sitting within different enterprise ecosystems and make value on top of that. But I think also, going to the beginning of that discussion, it's very important and interesting to start collaborating with the user and incentivize them to contribute to that data economy and offer them value in return. That's the driver of this whole thing.
Amazing. Amazing. And for the last, 4 minutes or so, I wanted to talk about loyalty and how we are going to generate loyalty with all of this trust economy with blockchain tech. And Steve, I'm going to start with you on this one, especially when it comes to ESG initiatives, the companies that you are working with. How is this going to increase customer loyalty?
I read a status recently that said 77% of customers would change brands if they found out that they were greenwashing. So I thought that was quite interesting, because we don't take it for granted how important it really is. And with having a platform like that we have, which is this smart dashboard as a monitor, rather than at the end of the year measuring your footprint, taking all these receipts of invoices for electricity and consumption of your vehicles, you can start integrating that with sensors and IoT and have the live information. You can then partner with electricity companies where they will be able to upload those documents straight into the dashboard. You're able to see daily what your impact is, and improving efficiencies and improving the processes will also have an impact on the emissions. So it's, rather than let's wait to see what happens, we can start doing it now by visually seeing it. So.
Very good, very good. And actually, Kirsty, I wanted you to also talk a bit about engagement. So loyalty and engagement, micropayments, all of this. How does this all tie together?
I go back to Agatha's cake. Yeah, it's all about money, perks, and rewards, right? Nobody acts for free unless you're going for ESG, you want to save the planet or whatever. Moves your heart, but mostly is, I want to be part of it. Everybody's tired of big tech taking advantage of their data and not being part of it, right? You're the product. No, I am generating the data, I want to be part of it. So as companies start offering this, I don't want to call it a kickback, but it's these rewards for engaging, participating, promoting, then the more companies will adopt it. And I think this is going to be a wave. It's just a change in the consumer behavior. And obviously there's going to be early adopters, but as revenues start coming in and customers are really attracted to these new business models, I think it's just going to spread like a wildfire across the industry. And if you don't do it, your competitors are going to do it. You're going to lose. So this is not an optional thing. It's not a good thing to have. It's a must, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I see Justin nodding over there, so please add your thoughts, and also let's throw in their interoperability. I know you love that word too.
Yeah, so, okay, it is important for, and how do you build trust with a customer? You make them money and you make their business more efficient.
Correct.
They will trust you, as they should. And you also show them the cards, the things we've talked about prior. But I think that is a really clever kind of way. It's like you need to, this is happening, right? And I think at VX Technologies, we are very keen on it's not soonish, we're doing it now. We can deploy today. If you called me today by 5 p.m. London time, we could have a distributed application putting your data on chain. Where that, it's that fast. And so the early adopters. Thank you. I think we are. But it needs to be actionable, right? Trust is also, we have big ideas in the future. We're going to do this. It's going to happen. No, trust is it's happening, and I can show it to you right now, and we can do it in front of you. And so I think that's an important part of especially in our community here, is that people need to see these things in action. They need to test it and break it themselves, or try to break it. But I think at VX Tech, we're really focused on it needs to be deployable now. And we are. We can deploy all of these things now. And I think that really adds to the value prop for everyone.
Amazing.
Everyone in the room,
Everybody.
cumulatively. All right.
That is our time, guys. I can't tell you how much I love you guys. So full of information. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, Metanet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Blockchain 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.